So I usually put out the raid guide immediately after a raid comes out, and then I don't really talk about it again. But after a couple of weeks of the raid being out, the community tends to find the more mainstream strategies and weapon loadouts and subclasses and all that kind of stuff. So I thought it would be a good idea to tack onto my guide with this follow-up guide to bring you a bit more up to speed with the current loadouts and strategies for Crota's End. It's not really going to explore the mechanics like the first guide did, so I encourage watching that video for something a bit more complete. The Abyss. After a few weeks, I can safely say that people are handling this just as poorly as it was being handled within the first couple of days. This encounter still pretty much seems like a free-for-all when it comes to coordination. Some people are on strand to grapple ahead, they're throwing tangles. Some people are on swords with eager edge, trying to dash ahead. Some people are doing both. Some people are doing neither. I'm sure a lot of people have also figured out the exact shortcuts and ways to skip a lot of this area. The footage you're watching now is my team just kind of skipping around everywhere, doing the challenge. Loadout-wise, pretty much anything is working here. Arc builds for amplified, strand for grapple. If you don't want to run that, anything is fine. I don't have any particular notes in mind. Name it in the comments. I'm sure it's good. My best advice for the Abyss is just to try to stick together and try to avoid pointless deaths to the pendulums and the holes. If you want to speed things up, just skip every other lamp. Don't forget about the chalice podium though, or you could have someone zoom ahead of the main group to scout where you're going to need to drop the chalice into a podium just so you can keep things moving. Otherwise, yeah, this encounter is still just absolutely mayhem. Even my own teams that I play with on reset day, people just trying to kill each other with sword swipes and the pendulums, people not seeing holes, people throwing tangles to grapple halfway across the map. It's just pretty crazy, so don't feel too bad if you're messing up here. The bridge encounter, on the other hand, is a bit more refined. Gun-wise, I don't think much has changed here. You can bring a tractor cannon if you want. It's not 100% necessary on normal mode. Build-wise, again, doesn't really matter. As long as you can keep yourself alive, that's really the key thing. I alluded to a strategy in my main guide where people were simply making everyone enlightened, crossing the bridge with the chalice, and then just leaving it on the other side for the entire time. And I can say that this has become the dominant strategy that my team uses because it skips all of the running back and forth across the bridge stuff that I imagine Bungie wanted people to do. The first person gets enlightened and revs up the bridge building process by accelerating the plate. Then everyone else gets the chalice to get enlightened and holds it. The final person who has the chalice, who is not enlightened yet, crosses with whoever gets the first sword. The remaining 4 people are enlightened already, so they just need to pick up a sword and cross the bridge. If someone dies, then yes, this strategy can break a little bit, but it is also very easily remedied by having someone just grab the chalice, running back across the bridge, and then giving it to the person who died. The person who ran the chalice will just grab a sword, and you continue, no big deal. Ute has had quite a few damage strategies come out. My team has been using Legend of Acreus and Divinity for an easier hitbox. I've done Leviathan's Breath. Rockets are still excellent. I think I heard Thunderlord out there somewhere. I don't think that's hugely popular, but I've at least heard of it. As long as you have a damage buff and some kind of a debuff, you're going to be fine for a 2-phase. It is obviously very possible to 1-phase Ute now on normal mode, but I think 2 phases are going to be the norm for the majority of teams. The most important thing is to just make sure your team is on the same page. That's all. If you're going to use rockets, everybody on rockets. If you're going to use Acreus, maybe get everybody on Acreus. Just pick one strat and stick with that strat. In terms of finding the correct rooms to enter, this has gotten a bit more streamlined. First off, you can tell which rooms above you have wizards in them by just jumping up to the ceiling and looking at your minimap. If you see a red circle, there's a shrieker in there, so don't go in there. No circle means there's a wizard, so you do want to go in there. The same applies for the left and right side rooms, but you need to watch the arrow within the circle to tell where the shrieker is. I like to check the top room first. So if I get against the wall and I see a circle with an up arrow, the shrieker is above me, which means it's in the top room. If I see a circle with a down arrow, then it's below me, which means it's in the bottom room. Obviously, if you see 2 circles, there are no wizards there at all, and you can just leave. And if you don't see any circles, then both rooms have wizards. Reading your minimap is going to help streamline things because sometimes you just can't see in those rooms. Finally, when it comes to Crota, there's been a lot of talk about what swords are better. Use Bequest. No, use Lament. No, use this other thing. Here's what I'll say about that. As long as you are using one of those things, and they have a good roll, and you're using the right strategy, you're probably fine. Lament is fine. Bequest, that's also fine. It's all fine. If you want to keep using Legend of Acreus, do that too. This is another boss that I think most people are going to be two-phasing. It's not really that big of a deal. The argument for Bequest is the fact that it can get surrounded, which is a big damage boost when active, one of the biggest for the least amount of work. However, a popular strategy for getting Crota into a position where the enemies are not shooting you is to have everyone go back to the crystal where you start the fight. Crota will run over to your group as a result. This means that surrounded is not going to proc, at least it's very unlikely that it's going to proc, which would make the Lament or something else a better choice. If your team is using Bequest, surrounded swords, you're all on the same page, then you're going to want to fight Crota closer to enemies to get that surrounded proc. This also applies to any Strand Titans with Syntheseps. Doing any kind of a melee DPS build, you gotta be surrounded to proc Syntheseps. The rest of the fight is pretty much as I described it in the raid guide. It's just significantly easier because it's normal mode, so nothing really kills you except maybe Crota if you're not paying attention. In terms of sword combos to bring down his shield, 2 swords doing heavy, super heavy, heavy should knock down Crota every time. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. Just do that combo. You're going to be fine. Is it technically possible to down Crota in 1 sword? Yes. Is it very hard to do? Yes. Are you really going to be doing it in your average LFG or friend group? No. So don't worry about it. When it comes to master mode, well, yeah, basically nothing changes in terms of the strategies. Just be sure to abuse whatever elements happen to be boosted that week, and you're going to be fine. A lot of the damage loss you'll experience from being lower level will be completely negated by the surge modifiers. The Abyss is handled the same way, except now you have some Barrier Knights added in at the end. Otherwise, there is nothing different about the Abyss at all. The bridge encounter might as well be the exact same too, except you have some unstoppable ogres where the normal ogres are at the end of the fight. The Swordbearer and Gatekeeper enemies will hit much harder though. It is much more difficult to survive, and thus I'd really recommend that the Chalice player brings a Tractor Cannon over just to make things super safe. Solar Titan is a great Chalice carrier because they can Tractor, they can Heal Nade, and they can spawn trap enemies in the doorway by just button mashing their melee. Ute is the same, except you have some Barrier Knights spawning in the middle area, and they also hit harder. All the Knights hit harder. Be a bit more on your toes here, because 2 hits from these melee Knights, and you might be dead. You can go from full to nothing in a moment's notice. So stay mobile, and just watch when you're trading the Chalice. Don't be standing too still for too long. Now, Crota is where I really wanted to see if you still needed to bring 4 Well of Radiance with you to get a kill, and the answer is no. You do not. But I'm never going to say it's a bad idea to bring a bunch of wells if you have the ability to. I did a clear with my math class boys with 2 Well of Radiance as I wanted to try a more normal team composition. Crota will still absolutely nuke your Well of Radiance though if you're unlucky, but if you don't have 4 wells to work with, like I imagine the average group will probably not, I'm highly going to encourage the use of Burning Maul and a Tractor Cannon, especially if you're using the back to the crystal positioning strategy. The reason Burning Maul is so good isn't because of its damage, but because it staggers Crota. Every heavy attack you make will stagger him, which means 1, he's not moving around as much, flinging people into walls or messing up people's attacks, and 2, he's not destroying your Well of Radiance. This means you can have a well for probably an entire damage phase, which means you don't need to spam a bunch of them. You can have Warlock 1 use it during the first damage phase, Warlock 2 for the second damage phase, and then if you go into Final Stand, Warlock 1 uses theirs again. You just need to make sure you get another super, which can be a little tough if you're going fast. Your Titan, on the other hand, will probably need some time to build a second Burning Maul for the second damage phase, so they should focus on super energy gains as much as possible. What I did as the Burning Maul and Tractor Titan is hit him with a Tractor Cannon shot, then just spam fusions while he's still kneeling. Then when he gets up, apply another Tractor shot and immediately pop my super and start using heavy attacks. There are two ways to go about this. Number one, space out your heavy attacks as much as you can to get maximum stun value out of the super. This will last a very long time, but it also means you can't reapply Tractor Cannon. Having someone else apply weakness after Tractor Cannon falls off will help your team in the meantime. Number two, just smash through all of your heavy attacks pretty quickly so you can get back to Tractor Cannon. There's more risk involved because Crota will go back to slapping people around, but you can actually reapply Tractor Cannon faster. Just play around with it, see which one is better for your team. I found a mix of the two works the best. However, this strategy starts to fail when Crota enters Final Stand, as Crota will not be staggered by Burning Maul while in Final Stand. This is where we are finally going to use that expunge mechanic. Expunge rips off a ton of Crota's health, but you can only expunge Crota if you are enlightened. So during the prep part of the fight, when you're gathering swords and all that, if you think you're going to bring Crota into Final Stand, start loading people up with enlightened. As many people as you can do before Crota's going to wipe you. In this kill, I think we used 2, and it was a pretty easy cleanup after that. If you can fit in more, that's never going to be a bad thing. Note that teams have had success without the Burning Maul strategy while only using 2 wells, but if you're playing in the back of the arena, again, I would try it out if your damage is lacking for a bit more control. The more aggressive, surrounded sword strat can live without Burning Maul. Weapon-wise, we were back on Lament because of Solar Surge. Again, just play to the Surge mods of the week, whatever the active ones are. Use a weapon strategy with that particular element. Arc can be probably still Legend of Acreus or Bequest with Surrounded. Solar, you're probably going to be on Lament. Void, I guess, could be Falling Guillotine. I would probably not be on Strand for DPS unless you're a Strand Titan doing the Synthesep stuff with 1-2 punch shotgun and your super. But again, that follows the exact same rules as the Bequest Surrounded strategy. So if you're doing any back of the room strats, then you might be out of luck there. If you have any updated Crota strategies you would like to drop in the comments, feel free. But as of a couple of weeks after the launch of Crota's End, this is what the normal mode experience is looking like, and mostly what the master mode experience is looking like. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.